Hi folks, today I'm working on a Lotus 907 oil pressure bypass. Recently had troubles with no oil pressure, so decided to remove the entire auxiliary housing and take everything apart, clean and check. This is simply the unit that bolts on to the auxiliary housing and becomes the base for the distributor. As you can see here, and forgive my photography, these parts go in from the top to the bottom and are retained by a small wedge in here at the oil bypass unit. You have this in unit, you have this small spring. This rubber gasket goes around here, so once this unit is placed back in the piece, it will not leak oil to the distributor, and then you simply drive the roll pin back through, and that holds that unit in place. Again, just to reiterate, the distributor base here and the separate parts, which are from the bottom up, this unit which moves up and down to provide bypass and oil pressure relief if needed, the spring, the rubber O-ring which goes around this unit here, and that unit then goes into the assembly and is secured by the roll pin. A fairly simple setup. The folks at the JHPS advised to lube this with moly to keep everything moving smoothly. Even after cleaning it in some pretty caustic parts washer, it was still quite gummed up. So this is, if you have it, it's a very good idea to take this apart and clean it. Everything here was put on the wire brush, with the exception obviously of the O-ring. If you're further interested in more pieces of the auxiliary housing, I have that apart as well. Here's the unit itself. This was simply taken out. There are 9 bolts on the car. You do not have to remove the intake manifold, which I almost did. I'm glad I did not. The unit simply has in the front, if you can see right there, there's a small rubber grommet, and that's basically to keep the oil seal, to keep the oil from running out. This is the pulley, belt pulley drive here, and this is just as it is in a lot of British cars. There are no bearings in this unit at all. It simply rides metal to metal. I provided some synthetic lube, and this unit simply goes back in here. Once you get to the oil pump itself, when this starts to go back together, the small unit right here goes on the top. There's an area for a pin which is located, a key, drive key. Simply line that up, and then to this unit there's the small drive key, and once everything gets settled, we have a locking pin. That locking pin simply goes right here in this groove. This is the spring that keeps the distributor tension correct and keeps some pressure on the front of the drive hub. The oil pump, once replaced, simply falls in like that and goes round and round, picks up pressure. They did advise not to reuse this unit here, which is a very specialized gasket. That is the old one. I do have a new one that I will be replacing. This is the oil filter housing itself. This unit here is to provide spacing where the unit feeds the oil cooler. Again, on the other end, there is simply nothing but this rubber gasket to keep the oil out. Tools I use for this project are here. A simple group of some roll pin punches from Sears. Use the 1/2 inch. Some lock ring pliers, also from Sears, and they help me get the locking ring off the smaller portion of the oil pump. The ever necessary hammer and my AMSOIL synthetic grease. A small screwdriver helped with the lock ring once it was broken loose. Hope you found this helpful, and hope you're not having oil pressure problems as I was, but this seemed like the most logical place to start.